Dr. Jason Fox, the wizard. Welcome to People in Legal. It's so lovely to speak with you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Lovely. And now this is a special roundup of the Lexnova Guilds Communitas conference that was held earlier in June 2026. And can you tell me just a little bit more about what you do and how you had been promoted and on the program as the lead provocateur of the conference?
Yeah, what do I do? It is a good question that I struggle with sometimes. I'm a wizard that masquerades as a leadership advisor. Technically, what I do is I'm a complexity practitioner, so I work within complex contexts, particularly where folks are navigating change in unprecedented domains. In terms of this event, 𝘁𝗸𝗄𝘆𝘀 reached out a while back, and I just felt the congruence with the heart, the vision for the legal profession, and it really, really appealed to me. And so, provocateur I find to be more useful than keynote speaker, because sometimes you'll have speakers that have their presentations locked and loaded to go that don't necessarily vary that much depending on the context. Whereas provocations, I think, are quite apt in that my role is to provide a few frameworks, a few perspectives, some new ways of seeing, and to couple that with some subversive questions that might undermine assumptions that people have and might help them to arrive at a vantage point where they can see what they're doing or see what's possible from a new perspective.
Yeah, well, that was a really fantastic way of describing what you do, given the complexity is difficult to make simple. And with that work and what you've done for the Communitas, what was that central provocation that you had attendees wrestle with, and why for that group was it important?
Well, I mean, I cheated a little bit in that this is a pretty important provocation for most groups, but there are particular questions and distinctions for legal professionals. The provocation is this meaningful progress, or are we potentially perpetuating a rich delusion of progress? And the reason I say this is because right now, so many folks are swept up in what I've long called the curse of efficiency. We constantly search for quicker, faster ways to do things. And that tends for us to end up with a world in which default thinking, the options we choose automatically in the absence of viable alternatives, default thinking pervades most everything that we do. And this might feel efficient and we might get more done. But the real question is this meaningful progress? And meaningful progress is that which brings us closer to future relevance. And if your business model, if the work that you're doing is relevant, it means it makes sense given the context that we're in. The thing is, though, we're in a time between worlds at the moment, and our context is shifting. The future isn't necessarily clear, but there are some patterns that we can attune to. And so, baked in with these provocations are reflections on, do legal professionals want to go down the path of hyper-rationalisation, where more and more of their work is outsourced to large language models? Or I didn't say this specifically, but there's an implicit thing. Or are there underserved pockets within the community that could be better served? Are there other ways that we might think about how we engage with work? Because burnout is pretty rife within the legal professional industry. And I feel like this is a legacy of a different world that is no longer apt for today. So all of this, as you can see, it has this dissolving and muddling effect, which creates generative ambiguity. So there's a kind of a fertile ground of possibility because people have been seeping in amidst an event that has exposed folks to new thinking, new connections, new conversations. And then I dissolve some of the past structures, and now we can start to see, what can we do with this? What might emerge?
Wow. And even in that small wrap up there, you have provoked in me a whole raft of ideas and thoughts, and that's
That's-
that's the magic right here. And wow, Looking back at the conference and how you were able to interact with 𝘁𝗙𝗲𝘄𝘆𝘀 and Yule and of course all of the incredible participants and other speakers. What is one experiential insight or a shift in that perspective that potentially you were successful in provoking, or maybe just a simple lesson that attendees could, like, they walked away with and continued thinking about?
Mm. I never want to rob people of their own epiphanies. So, there are wonderful insights that can emerge within events like this. And you have to participate and be present to kind of access this magic. And we've gone through this for a while, where for most of human history, events are the kind of things you have to be there for. And then we had this period where everything was recorded, everything was transcribed, and you didn't have to go to an event because it could just be summarized, or you could just watch someone's YouTube video and kind of gist what was happening. But this event was special in that you had to be there. And I'll give you one insight from this event that was something that I realized about halfway through, and I think other folks realized this too, is that the beacon that this event lit, the folks that this event attracted, there were none of the sociopathic, narcissistic assholes in the room. Sometimes in the legal professional, there are some very effective players that have, that's it. And they've figured out a way to be powerful and effective. This event attracted such, bright-minded, wholesome, warm-hearted, folks that are able to rise to the complexity of our times, but the feeling was very collegiate, like right from the start. I felt like I was in a room amongst friends. I didn't have to wear armor. I feel like everyone else was open and willing to share, and that was a special thing.
Well, that is beautiful, and it invokes the imagery and the sounds from the Hamilton musical in the room where it happens. So absolutely. Because the Communitas conference is intentionally a different kind of conference, and you've alluded to this already, that there are obviously more committed to the community of legal practice. What do you think that the Communitas offers, that, because I'm aware that you have spoken professionally at quite a few of these legal events. So aside from what you've already spoken about, was there anything else that's something that Communitas provides that other professional development opportunities don't?
Well, at this point, I just want to highlight, there's a saying that facilitators know, and anyone who has hosted a dinner party knows, if it looks effortless, that's because a lot of good thought has been put into the conditions, right? So the event looked and felt effortless. But I just want to highlight that 𝘁𝗙𝗲𝘄𝘆𝘀 had this acuity for enchantment. Like there was an undercurrent of magic and wizardry and enchantment and just things that I would consider in the, if I was to allow. I'm a wizard, right? So I like using the term because I like softening the hard edges of how we categorize things. But there's a sense of implicit permission to be curious, to be creative, to play, and to be in that space of possibility without having to be super hyper analytical and judgy and efficient and calculated. And that through all the aesthetics to the gala dinner, everything created this really quite a wondrous space for folks to be in. And there's no single thing that you can point to, but the collection in aggregate, like even the gifts that people got, there was like this mug, and because I've gotten a lot of like mugs from Officeworks or whatever with the conference brand on it, that's fine. But there was like Japanese milk glass as one of the gifts from Lexnova Guild. And I think that all just makes for a really premium experience where people feel special. And it does this thing of implicitly allowing folks to kind of melt into the context. Yeah.
It certainly has given me the impression that it's not performative. And like you said, it gives that opening into the craft. And I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
what's really kind of special, and why
Yeah.
you'll be able to find me there next year. And I want
Yeah. Or
to.
can I just actually
Oh
make
yeah,
one
of
point there on
course.
that? There's my favorite philosopher, James Cass, who wrote the book Finite and Infinite Games, A Vision of Life as Play and Possibility. He says that whomever must play cannot play. You cannot force people to have fun. You can't force people to play. All you can do is create the conditions in which that is a response that naturally emerges. Now, there were plenty of serious topics. There was a wonderful conversation around how we, do how legal professionals can approach pricing from a new lens, how we can escape the tyranny of 6-minute time increments and all the other patriarchal hangover legacy from the old system. But there was also a sense of like creativity and curiosity that was natural and emergent rather than contrived or artificial or performative.
Mm. Oh, I'm just gonna have to read that that philosophy. That sounds beautiful. And I want to explore just a little bit more about what you do, Dr. Jason, because one of the things that you have on your profile is that you do weird work. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, there's three ways you
Right?
can say it. Weird, word, or weird. Uh,
Weird.
and
Yep.
yeah, it's
Thank
a weird
you.
word.
It is a weird word. And what do you think, though, that the legal profession most needs to unlearn over the next decade after explaining it to us what weird work is?
Yeah, my PhD was in goal setting and behavior change, and at the
All good
time,
stuff.
well, yeah, maybe it's. I began to see the limitations of taking a fairly behavioralist, reductionist, measurement orientated approach to phenomena. It misses so much. Like, yeah, sure, your research can say that you've hit your goals and you've hit your targets, but what are the unintended consequences? What about the other things that can't be measured? What about the qualitative sense? Like, there are a lot of people that are great at achieving goals, but they leave a whole heap of mess and pain and hurt in their wake. So weird is an old English word from Nordic cultures that speaks to like the threads of fate, but it's not about predetermined fate. It's about the conditions that shape that which is to become. And if we, instead of trying to force change, become more attuned to what's already at play, we can then start to shape the conditions that lead to change emerging more naturally. We can catalyze that which we want to see more of rather than force it. And so, as a disposition of a complexity practitioner, and the key thing that I believe that most folks will need to unlearn, particularly as we enter this age of hyper-rationalisation with artificial intelligence, large language models, and with that, a whole bunch of other things. We need to have folks that are deft within complex domains. And what's happened is for the past few decades, we have optimized for complicated domains. The distinction between complex and complicated is like the distinction between a living system and a machine. A machine has, it's a closed system. If it breaks, you can find out what's wrong with it, replace the part, and fix it. Whereas a living body, a living ecosystem, it's complex. Sometimes there are no singular sources, or if you go to change something, you've just affected how that relates to other things. And this is a lot trickier to navigate. It's ambiguous, it's non-linear, it's open, complex domains deprivilege expertise. And so there's a kind of epistemological humility in how we engage with this. But most people feel much more, they've built careers by being the one that can come up with the fix, the one that has the optimized solution, the one that can make the machine work more efficiently. But what we're seeing is this machine mode is hollowing people out. It's burning people out, and ultimately is having people being replaced by large language models and agentic artificial intelligence. What's missing, though, is machines can't do the tacit knowledge. They can't do the warm data, the relational qualities. They can't do the meta-rational, the intuitive, the more than rational sensibilities that make everything work. And there's a kind of heightened human quality that I believe that we need to all step up and into if we are going to find relevance in this changing world. And I don't think we should try outcompete the machines. Let the machines do their work. Don't try to be a machine. Let's try to start holding ourselves a little bit more so that we can be alive, awake, and attuned to co-creating a world more curious and kind.
Excellent. And for those that do want to step into their nature, their human nature, and away from trying to be a machine, how do they get in touch with you?
Thoughtwizard.com is the best way. I'm in between books at the moment, but I write a newsletter at least once a month, sometimes once or twice every 2 months, but let's see. But foxwizard.com is where you can keep up to date with my latest.
Fantastic. Give Dr. Jason a follow. And if you've enjoyed the show, please give us a follow and share with your colleagues. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Love it.